The holistic world of healing includes plants and herbs, channeling energy as well as both spiritual and physical modalities. Healers are multi-dimensional beings who dance between the realms of the seen and unseen. These individuals have the ability to facilitate a shift in people, offering them insight and support, reconnecting people with themselves and the greater collective, healing the world one person at a time, healing from the other side.
The communication that I'm receiving is that the ancestors want to be remembered. Even though they were simple people, it wasn't that they weren't incredibly advanced. There's a way of being that they knew and understood inherently that is so in alignment with our natural surroundings, our natural environment. I'm a channel or a conduit to the energy that comes through. So I think for me, I need to empty myself of expectation in order to be moved or steered by the spirit of the sun or the spirit of the trance dance. I'm from the Cederberg, a beautiful spot in the Western Cape. I was born in Ceres. I grew up in Citrusdal. What I've now come to understand as being sort of an ancient ancestral highway. And then I've been in Cape Town, the birthplace of humanity, since 2005. My heritage is a little bit convoluted because of the, I suppose, history of South Africa. So I would be on a document, government document, classed as colored, although I would describe myself as being of Khoi and San descent, which would have been the first people of South Africa. So for me, the history of the Khoi and the San is not actually something that I grew up with. In fact, the very opposite of it. I feel like with the history of South Africa, there's such a deep-seated trauma, I want to say. I remember the specific instance of seeing a picture of San people with a bow and arrow and me being like, well, that's not me. Yeah, there's definitely an element of like wanting to distance myself or having done that in the past. And so what has happened now recently is, for the maybe past 5-6 years since I've been on my spiritual journey, is that it has actually found me. The spirit of the ancestors seems to want to use me as a sort of mouthpiece for an ancient way of being. And I find that for me, I have found my sense of belonging ever since I started identifying as Khoi and San. Khoi, of course, means human, which I undisputedly am. And then the San, I have recently started to connect with more on a sort of spiritual level, more getting in touch with the sort of dancing and trance dancing around the fire, and through making music that is trance dance inspired. It's been done for thousands of years by the San people, who were a nomadic people. If there was an illness in the family, in the tribe, they would dance for days, hours upon end. And for me, I seem to be able to tap in or tune into that frequency or power more frequently now. And it's for me certainly really profound, a really profound experience.
Trance dancing is an indigenous ritual and a form of hypnosis in which a state of altered consciousness is achieved. It is recognised as a magical and sacred power, generally amplifying emotion and song, and it can last for many hours, if not all night. Trance dance can take several forms, and while in trance, the shaman is able to consult with the spirits of the ancestors. Join us up next as we find out how Gershon found his calling for trance dance, and we learn about the offering ceremony he does for the ancestors on the other side.
I was a musician, a singer-songwriter and I called myself Khoi San Boy Man, which was a tribute to the people that I speak of, the Khoi and the San. And the boy was also a reference to the boy that I was, who was misunderstood. And the man was sort of who I was hoping to become. And then last year when hard lockdown happened, I was like, okay, who am I without music? And who am I without this guitar? And all these questions came up, and so I actually ended up discovering the bow. But instead of using it as a weapon, I use it as an instrument, and that has sort of rekindled something that was missing for me, definitely. The transition that naturally happened from switching from singer-songwriter was I knew that there was always a bigger purpose to me doing music, and even when I worked with a sangoma in the past, we did a divination, and one of my ancestors, my father's mother, my grandmother, actually came through, and she said to me, I never met her. And she came through and she said, music is your medicine, just not in the way that you think it is. And it took me a while to understand that, but I think I'm getting closer to it. For me, like playing the bow and doing sound journeys rather than the conventional song by song format has crossed a threshold, I would say. Because we live in a modern day society where there isn't people just simply living in the bush and doing trance dance, I've had to sort of adapt my own version of it. I hope to one day still go to a trance dance in the Kalahari or Botswana, but for now this is a way that I've found. So how it has come to fruition for me is it started sort of as full moon ceremonies, which was for me also life-changing. The difference that it makes certainly in my life to align myself to the moon cycles has been transformatory. So it started off as full moon ceremonies, but then I was like, something's missing. Then it was, okay, now we're gonna go do retreat spaces. So then you leave the city in order to sort of be away from the distractions. Sort of also working with medicine, whether it's cacao or whether it's psilocybin, or whether it's just completely sober in the trance and the dance and the music is the medicine. It's always a different process. For me, it's giving the offering, asking for guidance and assistance, and then leaving myself open to be guided by the spirit of the music and the trance and the ancestors. Definitely the trance dance has massively helped me find a place of belonging. It comes with a sense of lament because Trance dance, definitely I feel there's something else that takes over, and I have these visions of being around the fire. Whether I'm looking at a physical fire, but then I realize that, oh, this is actually a different fire. So there's this element of like deep sadness that comes along with it as well. Sometimes that's been the experience. Of course, the intention is to dance through heartbreak and trauma into bliss. But some of the experiences that I've had has been lament and deep sadness for that sense of tribe or communion or healing that has been taken away, or should I rather say it doesn't feature in our day-to-day lives anymore.
People like Gershon find healing through a connection to the ancients and the spirit world. There are many rituals and ceremonies used by various cultures to connect to ancestors, go within and find healing. But San trance dance is amongst the oldest, as the San people come from the oldest lineages of mankind. When connecting to elders, ancestors, or simply the spirit world, an offering is generally made.
So usually when you're working with traversing between worlds and you're communing with the ancestors, there's always a form of offering that is required. So for me, I like to burn what we call impepu, or Bushman Sekwegut, which is like Bushman's bed stuff, loosely translated. And that is sort of a herb that is used as an invocation. So I would call in my guides, I would call in my ancestors, I would call in the ancestors of the land, I would call in spirit animals. In a ceremony that I had recently, I was told by the ancestors, the spirit of the ancestors, that they are waiting for the new form of Bushman to incarnate. The spirit of the sun, Bushman, is waiting to incarnate in a new space, in a new time, when it is safe. In a new space, in a new time, in a new space. The spirit of the Bushman. In a new space, in a new time. Feel welcome, my ancestors. Then once the offering is done and the message has been received that it's good, then I will go to the location where I will stomp and give another offering, the offering of my talent or gift, and becoming the conduit between the other world and this material plane.
Coming up next, we watch as Gershon heads to a place called Ascension Cave, where he makes his second offering to the ancestors and trance dances to the other side.
So there's several sacred sites around the world, but specifically in South Africa there are numerous sacred sites. A few of them are in Cape Town, and Ascension Cave being one of them. This cave is special for many reasons, but the main ones is because it's actually an ancient burial site where the remains of 14 bodies were found. Ancient people that lived in this valley when it looked very different to how it does today. And then the other reason is because there's a beautiful sun path alignment that happens. So what happens there is that at the summer solstice in the southern hemisphere is when the sun reaches its southernmost tip, and basically the rays of the light shoot straight through the cave on that day. It's also a beautiful yoni cave, so it's a tribute to the divine feminine. And quite beautifully and significantly and symbolically, it's as if the sun impregnates the rock or the cave with light, and that is what marks the summer solstice. That is a space that has been calling me ever since the first time I went there.
Sida, sida, gera, sida, tota, sida, gera, sida, sida, gera, tota, sida, sida, gera, tota, sida, sida, gera. Sida, 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 sida.
lot of healing for myself and for people to be had in the journey. Is quite a meditative process, and I always encourage people to sort of dance and move. It's very inspired by the sun, trance dance around the fire. What I'm being used as a vehicle for is to remind people, and people that look like me or anyone who feels the resonance of the message, that there is a different way.
There is a different way, many in fact, varying mediums that have the ability to facilitate healing. Mediums like trance dancing that allow you to go within, to find a focused emotional intensity and heal through movement.